Upheaval. Breaking Point. Chapter 5. Confrontation. For Twilight Sparkle, going to Canterlot always felt like going home. She had a lot of fond memories of this place. Hours upon hours at the Great Library, lessons with Princess Celestia, powdered donuts and hot chocolate at Pony Joe's. Those were wonderful days. They also felt like another lifetime. Days when she didn't really bother with friends. Her time in Ponyville had taught her differently, and she knew that her home will now always be that treehouse library in a village, instead of back here in this glorious city. Today, however, there was something different about the city. Ponies went about their business on the streets as usual, but there was an unusual air about the place. Twilight could see it on the faces of passing ponies. Worry and fear. There was also a large presence of royal guards out today. Normally they would remain at the palace and send out a few patrols to maintain order, mostly settling quarrels that had gotten out of hand. A pony who would commit a crime was a rare pony indeed. "Excuse me," Twilight said as she approached one of the golden barded ponies. "Has something happened?" "Oh, Miss Twilight Sparkle," the guard answered with marked respect. Most of the guards recognized her as Princess Celestia's protégé. "We're on a realm-wide search. Princess Luna has gone missing." "What?" Twilight gasped. "When did this happen?" "Around yesterday evening, as soon as the moon was out," the guard explained. "The princess was on a tour of Equestria when her escorts lost sight of her." "How is Princess Celestia taking it?" "Rather badly, it seems. She hasn't left her chambers since it happened. I should be going myself. Ponies might think I'm slacking off. Who knows what it'll do to my paycheck?" Twilight's eyebrows furrowed in deep thought as the guard left. After Nightmare Moon's defeat, Princess Luna had decided to take a tour of Equestria, to see the world that she had not been a part of for 1,000 years. Had she been kidnapped by grudge-holding ponies? That didn't make much sense. Luna had been forgiven by the pony she had harmed the most by her rebellion. Besides, she was still a powerful alicorn who could more than handle an attack by ponies or anything else for that matter. "I'm guessing this isn't a good time to talk to Princess Celestia, then?" Spike said. "That's true," Twilight replied. "I hope they find her soon." "Are we still going to the library?" "Yes. We've come here already. It would be a waste to go home without doing anything." A few minutes later, they entered the Great Library. "Let's split up," Twilight said. "We'll cover more ground and get more research done that way." "Okay," Spike said reluctantly. "I still don't get why that coin matters so much to you, though."
"It doesn't matter. Keep it. Don't show or mention it to anyone."
Twilight stopped in her tracks and clutched at her head as she felt a sudden, searing pain. "What is going on?" she thought. "Why is this coin doing this to me?" "Twilight?" Spike asked worriedly. "Are you all right? Maybe going out wasn't such a good idea." "I'm fine," Twilight insisted. "We're going to do this, if only so I can stop having these headaches." "I hope that you find everything in the fort running to your satisfaction, Your Highness." Torado stifled a sigh as he walked into the halls of Fangbreaker Fortress with its commander. "For the last time, Dreadstep, I'm not here on an inspection. I trust you enough to know you can run this place without any pony looking over your shoulder." "Indeed," Dreadstep replied with a cough. He smoothed his mustache as he walked by Prince Torado's side, making sure to keep a few steps behind him as he did so. "I would still wish that you would be pleased to know how I run things, Your Highness, even if that's not why you came here." "Well, I am," Torado said. "I can tell that things are running quite smoothly here. So, tell me about the Wolven movements these days." "We are expecting an attack soon, Your Highness," Dreadstep replied grimly. "Our aerial patrols have been noticing a great mass of Wolven massing by our borders, including a great number of Brachyuri and their berserkers." "That bad, huh?" Torado remarked. "I'm sending reinforcements then. We haven't faced Fenrir's elite in a long time. He may have been banking on getting that info on this fort. Triple your security, Dreadstep. I doubt that this Coldhoof was alone. Fenrir might be a brute, but even he knows better than to just throw his best out there without some sort of advantage. He should know by now that he's not getting his info, but he's still massing his forces." "Already done, Your Highness." "See, without me directing things," Torado said with a grin. "Now about those..." "Your Highness?" Dreadstep asked. He looked at his prince to find the alicorn looked to his side, ears cocked and eyes narrow. The grin on his face had disappeared as quickly as it showed up. "The air here is getting a little stale for me, Dreadstep," Torado said. "I think I'll go take a little flight. I may as well get out of your mane." With that, he cast a quick teleportation spell, reappearing just above the fortress. He had just felt a presence break through Celestia's barrier, a familiar presence that he had not felt in 1,000 years. Does no pony respect the meaning of the word barrier these days? He thought. He winged his way to where the presence was. Far to the south of Fangbreaker Fortress was a small circle of standing stones. They had been erected by ponies as a simple monument to the 3 alicorns who governed all of ponykind. It had been abandoned for a long time when the Chosen migrated to the Heartland. Torado descended just by its edge and looked to see who was there. He already had a good feeling as to who it was, though. Standing at the center of the stone circle was a deep purple alicorn, her mane a dark flowing mass of stars, and her flank marked by the night sky. It's been so long since he last saw Luna, and the last time they saw each other had been unpleasant. When she had been banished, he still tried to remember her as the precious filly of an alicorn who was always by Celestia's side. He had envied Luna in a way. She governed alongside her sister while he led the charge. When she entered the room, Celestia would smile and gesture to her side. When he entered the room, Celestia braced for bad news. Luna's duty was to govern the night, but Torado always considered her companionship with Celestia to be a far greater duty. It was why he was enraged when Luna turned on their eldest sister. The sight of Nightmare Moon was a waking nightmare for Celestia, and the meaning behind the abomination's mere presence was an utter torment for her. He had wanted to destroy her. He believed it was a better fate than a millennium of imprisonment. If he had succeeded, Celestia would not have to live with the guilt of knowing that her sister still suffered. Not only that, the blame would have been placed solely on him. Torado approached his younger sister casually. He let the ground rumble slightly as he walked forward, as a way to alert her to his presence. Sure enough, she caught sight of him and seemed to hesitate slightly. When he came nearer, she steeled herself and stood her ground. He had to admit that he was a bit impressed. He dwarfed her in size, and she was in his territory, but she made it look like they were looking at each other eye to eye. "The last time we met, Luna, I'm pretty sure I made a decent effort to stomp you into the bloody dirt," Torado said casually. "Now, what part of the exercise in family bonding made you think that it was a good idea to see me by yourself?"
"That would be the part where I was wishing that you had succeeded, big brother," Luna replied. "And that happened often on the moon."
"I can only imagine," Torado muttered. "But that's history. Why have you come here? And why personally? You could have used your magic to contact me."
"Our sister can eavesdrop on any communication spell that goes through her barrier, and you know this. I came here to ask you a question without her hearing. When was the last time you visited the Heartland?" Torado raised an eyebrow.
"That would be never," he said, after a pause. He didn't consider the time he was there when Luna was banished. That was no time for sightseeing, and he had left immediately afterwards. "Good times," he added.
"You should have visited it at least when it was first established," Luna said. "Then you'd understand better what has happened to it now."
"What are you talking about?" Torado asked.
"I've been traveling around the Heartland, and I can tell you that a lot has changed," Luna continued. "The dragons have become more violent, as have a lot of other creatures. The griffins are becoming more and more territorial. Everfree's influence is spreading. There are stories of cockatrice and hydra attacks going around. Even among ponies, there's a great deal more strife than before." Torado was silent in thought. Celestia's pacifism enchantments were weakening. The dragons and griffins had inhabited sections of the Heartland along with the ponies when Celestia decided to raise her barrier. She was loath to cast them out, so she had agreed to let them stay if they subjected themselves to her enchantments. Had she tried to reinforce them? He shook his head and dismissed the notion. Making it stronger would break the creature affected and turn it into a perfectly calm, walking statue. And then there was Everfree. That damned primordial forest resisted alicorn magic. It was a patch of untamed wilderness within Celestia's carefully ordered realm. "It figures that the dragons would eventually learn why they have sharp, pointy things at the end of their tails," he said. "Celestia can manage her realm, Luna. These things are not my concern." "It's her managing that's making me worry," Luna insisted. "Big Sister won't say it, but I can tell that she's considering banishing the creatures that are becoming too unruly for the Heartland. Banishing them here."
"Good," Torado said offhandedly. "I could use more soldiers. A squadron of griffins would be especially nice down south."
"Be serious, big brother. Our sister is slowly losing control of her realm. Who is going to be next in line for banishment? Ponies who throw their pies a little too hard?"
"And what do you expect me to do about it, Luna?" Torado asked harshly. "Go over there and take her place?"
"Put an end to this division," Luna pleaded. "Come to the Heartland and show every pony the truth. Big Sister won't banish you with so many enemies at our borders.
That is not my place, Torado growled. Celestia is Equestria, and it is my duty to defend her, not to make her decisions for her. And why should I trust you, baby sister? I can still smell Nightmare Moon on you. He sniffed the air and wrinkled his nose. It may have been 1,000 years, but there's no forgetting that cheap soy sauce smell.
If the Heartland turns violent, what do you think this will do to her? Luna asked. She needs to let go of this ideal. If not, its collapse will be too much for her. If you really are Equestria's defender, then this is your duty.
I don't need an abomination-infested rebel of a sister to lecture me about duty, Torado said menacingly. Go home, Luna. Celestia will know that you came here. I'll tell her that you snuck here to visit me. You know, to mend things between us and show me that you're completely free of Nightmare Moon, which I don't think you are. She'll scold you for acting rashly, and that's it. Now go. You should be supporting our eldest sister, not plotting behind her back.
You cannot hide out here forever, big brother, Luna said. Her hurt expression was painful for Torado to look at. He had gone too far, and he knew it. The changes will force you to act. With that, her horn flashed a deep purple light. In a blink of an eye, she was gone, on the wings of a powerful teleportation spell. Torado looked southward, to Equestria proper's direction. You are the eldest, and it is your will that must be followed. That's just how things go. He remembered telling Celestia. He was so sure back then, so confident that Celestia will steer them through anything. All he had to do was his duty. She had told him that what she was doing was for the best, and he had agreed. It wasn't just him. Every pony agreed, even the ones who were to be left in the barrier lands. That was the kind of loyalty she inspired, and he admired her for it. He was not going to turn his back on his duty now. He flapped his wings and took flight back to Fangbreaker Fortress. He had an impending attack to deal with. The woven-shaped target was a good 60 feet away when Pyre Valor lobbed a fireball at it. The tiny sphere flew unerringly through the air, landing gracefully on where the head should be, before exploding. The blast was controlled, however. There was barely a scorch mark on the ground when the flames cleared. She had been practicing her aim all throughout this particularly slow morning. Commander Dreadstep had not summoned her squad for any mission, and the inactivity was making her uneasy. There was a great mass of woven out there, and she could be burning them by the job lots, not their wooden cutouts. And then what? She thought to herself. I could burn thousands of those misbegotten mongrels and there would still be more. There's always more. Hey, Vice Captain! Someone suddenly called out. Pyre Valor looked up and found Scarlet Rabbit hovering above her. This better be important, Scarlet, she said. It sure is, Scarlet replied. You look like you could use a drink. I could use one too, so how about we have a few over at Stormbruce? Have you been drinking all this time? Pyre asked. Most of it, Scarlet replied with a grin. It's not as fun if I'm the only one doing it. Blademane won't even say anything to me, and I think that the captain's still trying to recruit that Chosen from yesterday. Trying to do what? Pyre asked incredulously. What makes you think that he's trying to recruit that Chosen? Well, I saw him hand her a Legionnaire emblem, Scarlet replied with a shrug. I chased after him after he had said that he was going to escort her to a guest room. I was going to ask him if he'd let me have a couple of drinks on his tab since he wasn't using it. Focus, Scarlet, Pyre said, now serious. Are you certain that he gave her a Legionnaire emblem? Of course I'm sure. I'm a scout and we're good at spotting things. You're not going to argue with him about that, are you? I mean, that Chosen isn't really such a spoiled, filthy nag like you said. I smelled her. She smells like she takes a bath every day. Pyre Valor didn't even hear the rest of what Scarlet had to say. She walked off, leaving the perplexed Pegasus to hover there by himself. The implications of what Vanguard had done were all coming to her now. He had taken a great risk, all for the sake of bringing the truth to Equestria proper. If he was ever discovered, he would be hanging by the fort's courtyard as an example. It wasn't just the consequences that were shocking. She had known Vanguard since they were recruits, whacking at straw-stuffed woven dummies and galloping laps around the fort. She never expected this from him. Vanguard would often dismiss his promotion to captain as a fluke on a coin toss, but she knew the truth of the matter. They were both good at what they do, but Vanguard was chosen for a trait she didn't and vowed never to have. He was Prince Torado's ideal soldier, a loyal, unflinching pony who defended the barrier lands without question. It was as if the Heartland
and the injustice that its existence represented didn't exist for him. As far as Vanguard was concerned, the barrier lands were all of Equestria. Pyre Valor couldn't see it that way. The truth was too important to ignore. In everything that she did, it remained at her periphery. That she was doing all of these things so that the Chosen could live in their idyllic kingdom. The thought was sickening. She knew that the truth would have to be shown to the Heartland, no matter what the cost. There were nights when the outrage kept her awake, and it bothered her. There had been a point when she considered it a flaw on her part. It was why she apologized to Vanguard just the other day. But now, things were different. Vanguard felt the same way. He was just far better at hiding it than she was. He was naive, though. He put his faith in a worthless nag of a Chosen. His emblem was as good as wasted. Worse, if the Chosen did remember, she would most likely immediately run to Princess Celestia and inform the Alicorn of what Vanguard had tried to do. Vanguard would be a dead criminal in a matter of hours. Pyre wasn't going to allow that. He was a bit of an idiot, but he knew what must be done in the end. If she could force all of the Heartland to see the truth, he may be saved. "Vice Captain," someone called from ahead of her. Pyre Valor looked ahead to see Blademane walking towards her. He saluted before speaking, his voice monotonous as always. "Commander Dreadstep wants to see our squad, Vice Captain. May I ask if you know where the others are?" Pyre gestured behind her shoulder. "You'll find Scarlet back at the training grounds if he hasn't gone back to Stormbruce. I'll fetch Vanguard." "Thank you, Blademane." Blademane merely saluted again and walked on. Pyre Valor's eyes narrowed. The timing was perfect. During this mission, she will have to confront Vanguard about this.